Good morning. Coach will be joining momentarily, okay?
Okay. I got Coach on the line here, so I'm going to let him go ahead and start by recapping the last game, and then we'll look ahead to tomorrow at Oregon and United Center. Go ahead, Coach.
Okay, thanks, DB. Obviously, when you get to play a team of the caliber of Villanova, it gives you an opportunity to really evaluate yourself. That's the strength of, playing the schedule that we play, playing neutral environments. I think that's been good for our team. We've learned quite a bit. I thought it was really encouraging that we've now been in a couple games, both of them where we ended up getting beat, where we fought back and certainly could have taken the left road or the easier road because things were going great for us, but found a way to fight, come back, and be in position to have a chance to win both games. I thought that was the encouraging part. Obviously the disappointing part was you get it tied in both occasions late in the second half in both games, and just the quality of our possessions, both offensively and defensively, need to be better. I do think, Nana hit the nail on the head. We talked about digging a little bit deeper as a group and finding a way collectively rather than individually to try to finish games a little bit better when we're in those situations. And, we had a great practice yesterday, a very physical practice, probably the most physical one we've had in a while. So, guys, I think we're on edge a little bit, which I liked. They responded well, which I anticipated. So today we go here early this morning, and then we'll head up to Chicago here this afternoon and then get ready for tomorrow's game against Oregon. Obviously, Oregon right now, it's interesting watching them. It reminds me a little bit of us last year. I think they're a team that's going to continue to get better as the season moves forward just because they've got so many new guys. But they're very talented. They shoot the ball well. They've always been great offensively under Coach Altman. They run good stuff. They're very efficient. But I think some guys are starting to figure it out. Obviously, you've got Joseph Young, who's as dynamic an offensive player on the perimeter as we played all season. Cook, I thought was a real difference in our game last year when we took a 1-point lead in Portland. At the end, dominated the game the last 4 minutes of the game with his athleticism. So those two guys return, and then they have a freshman who's averaging 15 points a game, and Dylan Brooks, who I think is terrific. Reminds me a lot of Malcolm Hill in some ways, and that he has an ability to score the ball at all levels of the court, both mid-range, long-range, and with his finish game. And then, I like the kid Bell off the bench, who's the freshman. He blocks shots almost 3 a game, only playing 20 minutes, has great hands. Their point guard, Rory, can really shoot the ball in. They can come off the bench with 2 shooters, Nelson and Bassett, that are prolific three-point shooters. And then they added a junior college transfer, Benjamin, who's long and athletic and plays with motor, a lot like LaRon. So it's interesting watching them. I think it's only a matter of time for them to connect the dots. And, I think they're really talented, and so a good challenge for us tomorrow, especially on the defensive end. Questions?
Coach, this is Lauren. Do you have any, are you satisfied with your substitution pattern? Are you planning any changes? Would you like to just keep doing it the way you're doing it?
Well, if I was, Lauren, I certainly wouldn't tell you the day before the game. But obviously we're evaluating everything at this juncture, taking a look at, we have a system through our computer where we're able to chart possessions and chart who's in with who and what their defensive field goal percentage is and offensive field goal percentage and, what their effectiveness is as a group at both ends of the floor. We have that stuff early, but obviously I'm a math guy and I understand the concept of sample size. So if you look at that through 1 or 2 games, it's not nearly as impactful as if you have 9 games of information and, some lineups have played together 100 and some possessions or close to 200 possessions. And so now you start to figure some things out. And I think that's been certainly helpful, as well as kind of our instincts of kind of, what we need to do and how we need to make our team better. But, obviously at this juncture, I'm open to anything that can make our team more competitive and put us in a better position to close some of those games.
Hey, gentlemen. Jim Cotter, Danville Commercial News. The recent shooting slumps of Aaron Cosby and Ahmad Starks, do you hope that getting up to the United Center might get them out of their funk?
Well, I don't know if it's because we'll be up at the United Center. You know, I obviously the court's 94/50 regardless of where we play, and we've kind of taken that mindset over the 3 years. You know, road, neutral, home. You know, we've got to play. So I don't know if a venue necessarily is going to, you know, all of a sudden make them make more shots or miss more shots. I do think that both those guys certainly are better shooters than they're shooting right now. And I think, you know, those guys have had some good looks that they've missed. And I also think our harmony on offense needs to be a little bit better in terms of guys knowing when to be aggressive and when to make the extra pass and when to be a little bit more patient and when to attack. And, you know, those things come with time, especially in those two, you know, in their cases because they set out last year and have played now 9 games.
John, it's Jeremy. Shooters get in slumps sometimes. You've dealt with them here recently with, you know, Tyler Griffey and DJ Richardson. Do you feel like you got to address that with them, or just shoot?
As long as they're taking great shots, Jeremy, and they're good shots, that's my biggest thing with those guys, and they know that. I would be very, very disappointed if they weren't aggressive and didn't take shots that they can make. Be very disappointed. You know, we always have a fearless approach when it comes to that. Now, if the two things you have to correct are technique, so if a guy is not sticking his landing, or, you know, he's pulling the string, or he's not on balance, or, you know, then at that point you'd be foolish not to correct technique. Or if they're taking shots that aren't makeable or lower percentage shots, obviously you have to correct that. But as long as they're shots that are makeable and they're shots that are in their wheelhouse, and I want them being aggressive and Aaron on that side, you know, I want them to continue to take those shots.
Is technique an issue with either of those guys right now?
No.
John, it's Marcus. After watching the film the other night of Malcolm's game, what did you think about the way he played offensively, and what do you think about where he's at right now in his development as he continues to go forward?
Well, you preface that so I can be nice because you said offensively. Offensively, I thought he was terrific. I thought he really was in attack mode. I thought he was active on the glass. I thought he drove the ball. I thought he scored the ball at all 3 levels. I thought he played magnificent on the offensive end.
Can you give us a summation of the defensive end then?
I didn't think he was great at that end. He knows that. He saw his grade out. He's got to be better for us at that end. He's capable of being better for us at that end. He has been better for us at that end, and he knows we need more out of him at that end.
John, you've talked about adding or deleting a player, you know, from a team, but what about a lineup or a rotation? I mean, what about mentally? How does that have an effect, or how do you kind of put that into effect if you want to make a change? Well,
it's all based on performance. You know, it's all based on what's best for our team, to put our team in the best position to win basketball games and to be competitive. This is big boy ball. You got to be mature, and you know, our guys know that this whole deal, I love all of them, but it's based on one thing, and that's playing good basketball.
John, this is Mark. What's your assessment of how Kendrick is playing right now?
Very, very good on the offensive end. I think he's getting in a groove. I think his cardiovascular conditioning is back. I think the fact that he's gotten stronger from last year to this year has really helped him. I think his feel on the offensive end has really grown, and I think a lot of that's just experience in the system and experience playing college basketball. I really like, you know, what he's doing for us offensively.
He is where you wanted him to be now, conditioning wise, though. He's gotten there.
Yeah, conditioning wise and the offensive end, he's been just exactly what I thought he would be. He's been very efficient here of late as well offensively. You know, obviously a couple turnovers here and there in the last few games where we got a little bit sloppy. He's working to clean those up, but you know, I think his conditioning is where it needs to be, and I like his mindset on the offensive end.
John, this is Shannon. You mentioned how the practice was especially physical. Was that by design, by you,
Yes.
or was that the players taking it to another level?
I think it was both. It was both.
John Smarkus again. I wanted to ask you, if I could, how Tracy's doing right now and what his involvement has been with you guys, and is he continuing to stay involved?
Well, Tracy's doing great. His knees really come along. He's ahead of schedule. He's to the point where he can start doing things a little bit here soon, which is like shooting, yoga, some of those things. Paul's done a great job with him. He's in great spirits, and obviously we're relying on him, in a different role this year than the previous two. And I think he's done a pretty good job of being vocal on the bench, vocal during practice. Offering insights to guys. Tracy's been through a lot of wars, a lot of ups and downs, so I really encourage him to share his experience with the other players.
Thanks. Everything else for Coach? Okay.
Okay, guys, we'll see you up in Chicago.
Thanks.
All righty. Yep, bye.